Glad to see you could make it. Oh, no. Why would you need to be on time? I'm only here to teach you how to survive for the rest of your life. No biggie. Look, you are the chosen one. You are the slayer. And it is my job to make sure that you have the tools that you need to succeed. Now, I have an armament at home that is filled with every imaginable item for the destruction of the vampire, for the killing of demons, for the dispelment of ghosts. But what we're starting with today is improvisation. So, you find yourself in the middle of nowhere. 3 bloodsuckers are coming for you. You reach out, and the next thing that you grab would be the difference between life and death. So, let's talk about some things to look for. First of all, wood. Wood is your friend. Remember that a vampire can be dispatched by driving a wooden stake through its heart. Now, if I was to take this piece of wood and strike it on my knee as hard as I can, it would not break. Nothing at all. But you are the slayer. Your strength is far greater than mine. And if you were to take this and simply snap it, it would break right in half. When you do so, you now have 2 stakes at your disposal. So you can take any decent length of wood and in a moment turn it into 2 stakes. So one of your first considerations when fighting the undead is to always be looking for wood. Thank you for that inappropriate joke. Now, you might think that having something destructive would be helpful, and it can be. For instance, why not a sledgehammer? After all, it's a giant hunk of metal, and you, as I said, are much stronger than the average person. And if you took this and bashed in the brains of a Nosferatu, well, that would be the end of it, wouldn't it? It would. But even with your strength, these are slow and clumsy. You should only consider a heavy weapon as a last resort. All right? So maybe lay off the sledgehammers. However, if you have no other choice, and particularly if you have a single opponent where you can focus your strikes, then maybe go for the sledgehammer. Now, let's discuss axes. Axes are your friend. However, this is less so. A hatchet, as this is called, is extremely useful for performing a great many tasks in your job. Breaking open caskets, smashing locks, things of that nature. But if you try to kill a Nosferatu with a hatchet, you're going to have quite a job of it. Now, again, enhanced strength, you could theoretically sever their head with a hatchet, but the truth is you're most likely to just piss it off. Even if you threw it with perfect accuracy, which is a good bit harder than most people make it out, and you were able to strike it right in the noggin, the odds that it would drive itself deeply enough to incapacitate the vampire are very small. And even if that's so, it would not kill it, only incapacitate it. Now, that's better than nothing, and an incapacitated vampire can then be properly staked or have its head removed. But again, good to keep in the trunk, but not so much with the hatchet. However, an axe, that is your friend. Now this one is a much more workman axe. However, this is the kind you will most likely be finding yourself coming into contact with. So you have to work with what you've got. If you have a battle axe, that is better because of the wider size. Your goal with an axe is one thing and one thing only, and that is the removal of the vampire's head. If you remove the vampire's head, death, or should I say, destruction of the undead is instantaneous. The problem is that vampires, funnily enough, don't want to be destroyed, and so they are a moving target. But if you can get this axe in just the right place, bring it across, take off that head, then you're going to be in very good shape. All right? Now, no. Now, this is interesting. When you are looking for a weapon, I want you to be thinking about what is your final goal. The reason that I want you to look for wood is because most pieces of wood can be turned into steak at a moment's notice. But if you can't stake the vampire, your next goal is generally removing the head. So, if you see here, you'll see that this garden tool is narrow and thin. Now technically, it is for scraping little bits off the floor when remodeling. Not something that you would think of when killing a vampire, but the truth is, with your enhanced strength, if you bring this forward at the right angle, especially if you can catch them against a wall, this will neatly sever the head from the body. All right? So I want you to think about, what do I want this weapon to do? And if you are trying to take off their head, not a bad way to go. Another thing to consider is that most modern weapons, I say weapons, tools, which you are making weapons, most modern tools have a plastic or fiberglass handle. Much more sturdy, but no good for staking. Keep that in mind. Now, I want to talk to you about shovels. Why? Because for some reason that I am not entirely sure why, people just seem to always have a shovel nearby. When you're in combat, the tool you're most likely to see and grab is a shovel. So, as you would imagine, your, again, goal is to remove his head. Or her head. I'm not sexist. Whichever vampire it is, it needs to die. So, if you have a choice, you will typically have this one with the little pointy bit at the end, or this one with the big flat end at the end. Now, which of these do you think would be better for removing a head? That's right, this one. So if you have a choice, and I have noticed very often in a gardening shed or such, wherever you happen to be grabbing, there usually are both. So if you see this one, go ahead, give that a go, see if you can get that head off, all right? Now, last but not least, saws are worthless. They are no good as weapons. They are far too thin, though they are fun to wobble, and they're not going to do you any good. However, they could be used in a pinch if you are able to get the vampire down and affix both of your hands, thusly slowly pushing forward with your strength. You should be able to push right through the neck and take off their head. However, it's important to remember that the vampire doesn't want you to do that, and so he's going to be fighting back. But if you have the opportunity, and most importantly, if you have no other weapon, a saw is not a terrible way to go. But what I want you to remember is that you are the greatest weapon. All you are doing is finding the items that are going to enhance what is already inside you. You are going to learn to be the greatest slayer who has ever lived. And the next time you're on a hunt and you're at a cemetery and the vampires have gone through all of your stakes, you've staked them all, but there are still 3 more coming, and you look over, you see the shed where the groundskeeper keeps his tools. I want you to remember that you have an arsenal at the ready. Now, would you like to start practicing a little shovel combat? Let's begin.